of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing for a moment, please. Heavenly Father, guide us in our endeavors and our decisions tonight. Show us, O Lord, the path to becoming true disciples and taking our commissioning seriously as leaders of our fine city. In addition, tonight's meeting is dedicated in the memory of and in honor of Patricia Jane Barstow. Lord, we ask that you bless each and every one of us here tonight, and we ask for all this tonight in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Kathy, roll, please.
Carter, Walther, Powell,
Here.
Barstow,
Here.
Hayes, Pickens,
Here.
Lee,
Here. Okay, pickings are slim, but we do have a quorum. First thing on the agenda is citizens' comments. And I'm going to start real quick with a proclamation. Lanier's on fire, as we all know. Our Parks and Recs department is just going crazy. And I have a proclamation here for Lanier, for Kids to Parks Days. I'm going to read it real quickly here. It is one of the responsibilities and privileges of the mayor of the city of Pataskala, Ohio, to recognize events of outstanding worthiness. And May 18th, 2019 is the 9th Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the third Saturday of May. Kids to Park Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks, and it is important to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks, where we should be encouraging children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, etc., etc. Whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants, and Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and outdoors. So therefore, I, Michael W. Compton, Mayor of the City of Pataskala, do hereby proclaim and urge residents of Pataskala to make time May 18th to participate in Kids to Parks Day.
Thank you, Mayor.
Congratulations, sir. I'm sure you'll be giving us an update on what you have planned for May 18th.
Sure will.
Very good, sir. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Suitable for friend. All right. Citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak? Need your name and address, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is John M. Cool. I'm a partner with the law firm of Vorey, Sater, Seymour & Pease, 52 East Gay Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
a point of order. The record should show that I'm leaving the dais.
Okay. Mr. Barstow is going to sit this one out, so there's no conflict of interest. Go ahead, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I appreciate your time this evening. I'm here to speak against proposed zoning ordinance 2019-4337, which is a proposed rezoning ordinance to rezone property owned by my client, Mid-Ohio Development. To say that my client was surprised to learn that an individual member of council had initiated rezoning of its private property would be to put it mildly. As set forth in the letter that was sent to members of council earlier today, we ask that council reject ordinance 2019-4337. We have serious concerns, and we believe that this council should have serious concerns about the legality of the proposed ordinance. While the city's charter may allow a council member to submit a rezoning to the zoning commission for consideration, the charter surely did not contemplate the scenario before this board, where a council member who is personally opposed to a proposed development uses his authority as a council member to propose a rezoning application of neighboring property to his own. In fact, I would suggest the charter does not authorize a rezoning under these circumstances. Specifically, section 3.01 of the charter does not permit council to exercise powers in violation of the Ohio Constitution. And section 1102 of the charter does not permit council members to act where there is a conflict of interest. This ordinance raises issues under both provisions of that charter, and it would needlessly expose the city to claims under state and federal law. First, the rezoning of this 6.88 acre parcel, 6.88, would constitute unlawful spot zoning of Mid-Ohio's property. Spot zoning is the practice of singling out a small piece of property for discriminatory treatment. That is exactly what would occur here. There is no reason to single out a piece of property that has been zoned as multifamily in a manner contrary to wishes of the property owner and contrary to the city's own master plan, including the version of the draft master plan that is available on the city's website as we speak. The proposed rezoning ordinance also raises concerns under the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. There is no rational basis to target this property while leaving other properties zoned as multifamily unaffected. In addition, this rezoning would violate Mid-Ohio's vested rights to the zoning based on the Ohio Supreme Court's holding in Boyce v. Ottawa Hills. On behalf of my client Mid-Ohio, we ask that this council not only do the right thing, but do the lawful thing and reject this ordinance and not needlessly expose the city to liability. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak? Need your name and address, and you have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Yes, hi. My name is Leatrice Guttentag, 280 Charles Road, Pataskala. I am here on behalf of several people. There's a handout and packets that all of you should have received. This isn't due to the excessive noise that the Bullet Ranch's outside shooting range has been occurring to a lot of the residents. You will see letters of personal accounts from a bunch of the residents in the area, from Charles Road to Adams to Mills, as well as some on Broad Street. There's also a petition. As you can see, the main problems we're all having are everything from animals to personal problems to hearing the noises while our windows and doors are closed, no longer being able to enjoy our outdoor space. And the problem comes in several ways. I'm going to take into account right now a note that was put in by Christy Hess over on Mills. She wasn't able to come. Today she filed a formal complaint of the nuisance law to the zoning board. She says, I live at 12240 Mill Street in Pataskala. The Bullet Ranch's outdoor shooting range has negatively affected my family and quality of life. They shoot outside for hours on any given day or week, even Saturdays and holidays. Times of the day vary from AM to PM, sometimes it's all day nonstop. I can hear the shooting while I'm lying in my bed and in my living room while trying to spend time with my family. I can't even enjoy spending time outside where I have to listen to constant gunfire. But that isn't the worst of it. My dog is terrified of the gunfire. When it starts, she runs and hides. She won't go outside to potty, which has become a health issue for her. She developed swollen kidneys and urinary tract infection because she's unable to urinate outside because of her fear. She'd have to hold it in for hours. She just stays in the house cowering, panting, and shaking, specifically on weekends. I think you guys get the point. Well, then the zoning board, Scott, does email me back, which I'm quite aware of, that unfortunately, due to Chapter 1287, there is no impacts of the zoning code for penalties, therefore nothing can be done, and it's the police officers who should be addressed. Well, we did call the police, and the police say that there's nothing they can do at this time. So exactly where is the accountability in Pataskala when something happens? This is a very good question. In my case, I'm a 9/11 survivor. I was on the 80th floor when the plane hit. I have post-traumatic stress. I moved out here for about 5 acres, almost 6, to get some quiet. It's really nice out there. Then the shooting started. A continual bang, bang, bang gets right to me. In that packet, you'll see my doctor's note stating what that does to me. Makes my health worse every day. So exactly, once again, this goes back to the nuisance laws don't seem to do anything. Well, I am aware, I did talk to the agricultural meeting, and they will be discussing the whole concept of a discharge zone, and because they are in there. Well, I guess the big question is, discharge zones were created for agricultural use and hunting. Can a business exploit that and get paid to use that discharge zone? I personally want to make a motion today that they will be removed from the discharge zone entirely because a business is not entitled to use it for their own benefit. And that way there won't be any future problems in enforcement in the future, especially since this town seems to have an enforcement problem going on. And I personally think that this should be put on an emergency list. It's been going on too long. The police seem not to be able to do anything. The nuisance law is not to be able to do anything. Nobody seems to know the anything about what the definition is of a discharge range. And we are a growing city. And as people move in, these old constructs aren't working anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll, please.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Pickens,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. On to reports, I don't have anything right this minute. I'll jump in a little bit later. Mr. Barstow?
Mr. Mayor, that was very kind of you to mention my mom. Just as briefly, she is a former council clerk, as Ms. Hoskinson likes me to tell those stories. When I told her I was going to run for council, she said I was crazy. But I did have, so it was nice. Appreciate everyone who came to the calling hours. We'll be memorial service next week. I'll put that out. I appreciate that. It was really nice. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Zetz?
I have nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. King?
Thank you, Mayor.
Are you're covering several
I
bases
was gonna say,
tonight?
I have the next three.
Okay,
So
very good,
that
sir.
is,
Very
okay,
good.
from city administrator standpoint, just wanna mention this coming Saturday, as part of the I Love My City, we'll have volunteers at this location, the Old Town Hall and Municipal Park. The majority of what they're gonna be doing is pulling weeds and spreading mulch, beautifying the facilities. Mulch manufacturing is donating the mulch to those, so on a future council agenda, we'll have a motion to accept that, and accepting and recognize that donation. Tomorrow, the repairs to our admin rear parking lot are scheduled to begin. The deteriorated sections of concrete are gonna be removed and replaced. We had $20,000 budgeted for that project. It's gonna come in right between $8,000 or $9,000, which is good. Using local company to do it. We advertised on our social media to get quotes from local companies and received 3, and this is the lowest one, so happy about that. Update on Main Street, AEP is scheduled to meet with the owners of the Avery Barn on site tomorrow to get signature of an agreement to service the property from the rear of the property. At that time, there would be no other obstacles for AEP moving forward, so I will be talking to them after that meeting to see what the time frame is. And we'll provide an update to council.
You said Ivory Barn?
Ivory Barn.
Very good.
Can I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So, are you saying that once Ivory Barn signs off, that's gonna be the end of the Main Street?
Everything that we would need would be in place for AEP to proceed with their construction of it.
To complete it
Correct,
as planned?
correct.
All right.
Yeah.
By Street Fair.
What's that?
By Street Fair.
They are well aware of By Street Fair. And actually on that, AEP has agreed to do more, thankfully, more of the work than originally anticipated, so our cost is gonna be an electrician hooking up the houses to the new service, so ultimately, I think it is a good, come from that. Our cleaning contract is currently out to bid with a bid opening scheduled for May 24th, so Mayor, early June, we will be coming to council seeking authorization to execute contract. Here in a couple of weeks, we have a site visit for interested companies. I've been contacted by 3 or 4 different companies who have had questions in seeking the bid specs, and we provided those. Moving on to utilities. Our new billing clerk starts a week from today. Out of 79 applicants, she was the one that was chosen. We put together a panel of utility employees to do the interviews, and then she spent a day touring all the facilities and meeting everybody, and there was consensus that she would be the right one. She comes with a background in training on customer service and conflict resolution with customers, so I think she's gonna be fantastic. And The May 20th meeting, we plan to have her here, her schedule willing to introduce her to city council. At the end of this week, 3 members in the utilities department is gonna be in Huron, Ohio, attending the OWEA conference, annual conference, and then that is all I have, Mayor.
So I guess we'll leave the old town hall alone as far as cleaning until it's where it needs to be.
We're not
cleaned.
gonna clean it, it is gonna be submitted as a bid, and we will not be getting charged for it until they move in. What I plan to do is after whoever we do hire though, after all the construction is done, assuming stuff's approved and we get started, do a good deep clean over there before we have anybody occupying the building, and then from there on out, they will be doing the routine cleaning.
Anything for BJ on all 3 counts of Jamie, Chris, and himself? All right, very good. Mr. Haynes?
Thank you, Mayor. I have 4 resolutions on the agenda for tonight. The first one is 2019-035. This is for award of the contract for the Tascala Safe Travel Plan to the MP Dory Company. We did receive 3 bids on that project. All 3 were awardable, and MP Dory was the lowest and at about $5,000 under the engineer's estimate. The second one is 2019-036. That's for award of the ramp contract to the Shelley Company. On this one, again, we did have 3 bids. All were awardable. Shelley Company was the only one that was under the engineer's estimate. The next one is 2019-037. This is for the Oak Meadow Drive project. That one, we had 2 bids. Only one was awardable, and it was over the engineer's estimate. Engineer's estimate was $750,000. This one came in at just over $800,000. But like I said, it is within the 10%. One note, the supplemental ordinance is on for the second reading tonight. We did change some numbers around in that. The total value stays the same, but we did change some of the numbers around to match the bids that we had for the project. So it just shifted between projects, but the total dollar amount stays the same for the Public Service Department portion. The final is the resolution to accept the Broadmoor Commons Phase 1 project. They have met all the requirements for acceptance, and we're ready to accept that. Finally, the timing, safety, and capacity studies for the signals on Broad Street. The traffic counts were completed a couple weeks ago. That information is being processed, and the review portion has also started. Happy to answer any questions.
So when we accept Broadmoor Commons Phase 1,
Yes.
mowing, snow plowing, we start to take care of all that stuff now?
There shouldn't be any mowing in there for us. I believe all the common spaces are maintained by the HOA, but snow plowing, yes.
So just a right-of-way mowing as we go down Broad Street? That's it?
Correct.
Okay. Anything, yes, sir?
This may be an Alan or maybe a Scott question. Has the HOA been established yet there? You guys been contacted by them?
They do have an HOA in place. I think as the development goes through the process, the developer is heavily involved, so it's not completely turned over to the residents at this point.
And we have a good rapport with those folks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sometimes when it's not the people running the HOA or the management company or something that, that's in Kentucky, you run into issues, but
Mm-hmm.
we're in good shape?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Anything else for Alan? Mr. Fulton?
Thank you, Mayor. One addition to my staff report, the preliminary plan amendment for Heron Manor was filed on Friday, so they will be appearing on the June 5th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. There were some questions at council on the 15th in regards to when Jefferson Meadow was annexed, so I looked into that, and it was annexed via ordinance 2000-3368, which was passed by council on February 5th, 2001. The annexed property was a total of 34.923 acres, which did include the 6.8 acre piece of property. The ordinance also indicated that the property would be zoned R5, which is the existing R10 multifamily district. At some point between 2001 and approximately 2013, the names of the zoning districts changed. So it's essentially functioning as the same zoning district. The ordinance did stipulate that it could have no more than 5 units per acre. So looking at the existing Jefferson Meadow, including the 6.8 acre piece that has a current density of 3.6 units per acre. So under that 5 unit per acre threshold. With the proposed apartments, the density would be 4.75 units per acre, again under the 5 units per acre threshold. There was also the question of the number of rentals in Jefferson Meadow. I reached out to the condo association president, but have not heard a response from him. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Scott? I'm sorry. Let's see how much information he can give us. If not, he'll get it for us.
Yeah, Scott, I have some questions about the Bullet Ranch issue that came up this evening, and I've been looking at. It's been on social media, so I'm just curious. Maybe you can help me out here. If you can't, then maybe let me know offline or come back to another meeting. So the Bullet Ranch, is the Bullet Ranch completely within the discharge zone?
That's correct.
Okay. And so so people who are in the discharge zone are permitted to discharge firearms. That's my correct?
That's my understanding, although the specifics in terms of how it's interpreted, I would have to defer to Mr. Zett.
Okay. Oh, that's Mr. Zett's.
Discharge
zone. I know that there's some restrictions on it. I believe you can't do it from dusk till dawn. That's one. Are there any other restrictions such as you can't do it on a Sunday, or you can't do it on weekends, or you can't do it on a holiday, or something like that?
I gotta pull the language out of it.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to, tip anybody. I'm just trying to flesh these issues out a little bit. If you want to respond later on, that's fine.
Yeah.
From my understanding, it says in the normal course of hunting, you can't shoot outside of an enclosed building from dusk to dawn. And then it goes on to say, aside from hunting and other permitted discharge, you can't unreasonably disturb, annoy, or harass residents or livestock, or it can be done unsafely. Something along those lines, but without the language in front of me.
Okay.
Paraphrasing.
So I just had to find, I
Okay.
didn't have it out here in front of me. 50511D says no owner, lessee, or other occupant or person having control or exercising control of land within the discharge zone shall discharge or permit any other person to discharge any firearm outside of an enclosed building from dusk to dawn, other than hunting permitted in compliance with ODNR and others. So basically you're not allowed, the person's not allowed to have another person shoot outside from dusk to dawn.
Mr. Fulton said something about not disturbing or annoying the neighbors or livestock. Is that in there, or?
It goes on to say something.
It goes on, it's the very next sentence says, in addition and other than lawful hunting, the discharge of firearms otherwise permitted shall be restricted in duration to a time period that shall not unreasonably harass, annoy, or disturb livestock or residents within the city.
Okay. So does the discharge zone cover commercial and non-commercial use?
That's an interesting question, because there are, and Scott and I talked a little bit about this, there are, and as you know, in various zoning districts, there are permitted uses and conditional uses. This property, I believe, is zone GB, and there is no permitted or conditional use that is allowed to have, I think, an outdoor shooting range. I mean, there are some conditional uses that allow it, so there's this interplay between the zoning regulation and the discharge zone that really don't jive with each other. We're trying to figure that out.
Okay.
And I'll just say the discharge section does not make any designation between rural, agricultural, commercial. It's just,
Yeah,
if
really.
you look at our map too, it's all residential, commercial.
Okay.
Right, yeah, I mean, that section that I read you, 50511D, is really the heart of what the discharge zone section says in the code. There's not much, there's a few other sections, but that's the meat of it right there.
And as I I'm sorry.
No, good to, no,
And as I understand it, that's like as clear as mud.
yeah, it's, I would agree, it's not particularly well written.
So-
Okay, well, discharge zones are the,
Ag committee.
property of the Ag Committee, so maybe, I'm on Ag, I'm not the chairman, I'll talk to Mr. Walt, maybe this is something, Scott, would this be something that would be appropriate for the Ag Committee to take a deep dive into?
That was my thought. I reached out to Mr. Walter last week and mentioned the conflict that we have and the way that it's worded. He said he's, unable to be here tonight, but at the next meeting in May, he will call for an Ag Committee meeting to
Okay.
discuss this section of the code.
Okay, well, that satisfies me for now. Okay, thanks, appreciate it, guys. Well, I got one more question, this is for the chief, you're not off the hook. So, what is our code? Let's just assume for the sake of my question that the Bullet Ranch is causing a lot of noise with its outdoor shooting range, okay? Let's just assume that for a minute. Is there, and you get complaints from the neighbors, what, if anything, do you feel as the police department could do about that?
If you were just looking at the code, we would go and ask them to refrain, to not bother the neighbors.
The Bullet Range?
Yes.
Okay.
However, from experience, we had a situation that I think kind of applies, and it was some residences down close to a large factory that we had here in town, and they made a lot of complaints that the factory started doing what they did at like 5:30 in the morning, and we went all the way through the system, and then it turned out that businesses are exempt when it's in the process of them doing what they do to make money.
All right. Well, I'll look forward to the Ag Committee meeting on this then, it'll be interesting. Okay, thanks, guys, appreciate it. Thanks, Mayor.
Anything else for Scott? Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it goes along with that. Legislators tend to want to legislate, I think, that's kind of what we're up here to do. I don't know if there has been a dialogue between the citizens and the owners. And lots of times that gets overlooked. Now, maybe that has happened. But sometimes that's a place to start, and I don't know that it has happened or not, but if the city would also participate in facilitating something like that, if it has not happened, I think I'd be grateful for that, because sometimes we hear stuff and we want to begin to listen to citizens on both sides of an issue, and we begin to think, well, we need to write a law, or we don't need to write a law, and it turns out that maybe two sides haven't spoken. So any facilitation that may solve the problem, I'd be in favor of. And of course, tightening up, in the end, we may have to tighten up the way the law reads, because we need to, so we don't run into this again. I mean, this happens in the city all the time. Well, not all the time, but enough. We're constantly working through new situations that have popped up because situations have changed or something comes along that was not anticipated. So that would be my two cents.
Yeah, I'm not interested in passing a new law unless it's absolutely necessary, but, I would encourage folks to try to come to a happy medium about things, but, I'm just trying to get some information about what's out there and what, we
I
can do,
agree.
if anything. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to emphasize what Mr. Parsons and Mr. Hickens said. I think that if there's any way this could be handled by not up here, but at the citizen and the business level, I think hopefully, I think the city could help with that, correct?
Facilitate.
I think it's good that we talk about it, Ag Committee, maybe tighten it up, but I think if it can be decided here, that would be the best way. Hopefully, there'll be a compromise somewhere. I don't know all the particulars. I've read, what was in the packet, and I've also seen the social media stuff, but maybe there's a compromise to be had out there somewhere. So hopefully that can be taken care of that way. It's unfortunate, but I think that hopefully we can get together and come up with some type of compromise.
Any other discussion? Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
In fact, I mentioned to BJ this morning, the guys that come through town on the weekends now that put out all the signs for the new homes and the subdivisions, they have a new trick. Instead of, Sunday night, instead of taking the sign and the stakes, they just take the signs and leave the stakes. Cause they know they're coming back next weekend, so now we have stakes in our right of ways and the guys are getting ready to mow, so if we can tighten the screws a
Mhm.
little bit, I'd appreciate it. It junks up the city. Listen, I'm not against, companies, telling us where there's new homes being built. I think it's kinda cool, but, as long as they do it the right way and clean up their mess, cause we just sharpened our blades, right, Alan? So we don't need to be running over wooden stakes. Thank you. Lanier, what do you got for me, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a resolution on tonight for the Nature Works grant. This grant will focus on improving the William Carr Park behind our City Hall and Police Station. Tomorrow at our Parks Board meeting, we'll go into details and specifics on what we would like to add to the park. And hopefully at the next council meeting, I can have more of an update for you. Currently, we're going through the process of opening the pool. We started filling it up yesterday, and hopefully we get out of here tonight so I can go turn it off so it doesn't overflow. And next week, we're hoping to have the county out for inspection and to do their, to give us their blessings to begin opening the pool within about 3 weeks. Thank you, Mayor, for reading the proclamation for me. I'm hoping from this year moving forward, the third Saturday of May, we'll continue to have some type of event that will encourage the families and children to come to the parks. We'd like to change the location of those events, and where we're getting multiple demographics and areas of Pataskala. Outside of that, I'm open to any questions.
Anything for Lanier tonight? Yes, Mr. Hickman?
When I hear grant, I hear match. Have you guys already built that, baked that into the pie?
I popped it in my, something just came up a few weeks ago. I popped it in my report, just a snippet of it. There is a $25,000 grant through State Farm Community Initiative. I'm working with Phil Metzler and the Master Gardeners, OSU Master Gardeners, to be able to have some type of buy-in and partnership to be able to apply for that. We would probably utilize that $25,000 match for the Nature Works grant, if we are able to do so.
Jamie?
Very good. Anything else for Lanier? And you're excused for the evening if you'd like to go shut the water off.
That overflows into my backyard, so I probably.
We don't need any more water.
I have 3 feet left, so I'm good for an hour.
All right. Chief Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Thursday, I'm just gonna give a pat on the back to Officers Walker and DeJesus. Officer Walker made a traffic stop, and Officer DeJesus, when he was doing the impound, recovered over 3 ounces of methamphetamines. I mean, if you're not in the drug world, that's a huge amount, and they did a really good job finding it. It was hidden. And then on Saturday from 6 to 9 p.m. at the CenturyLink building, there's going to be a OVI checkpoint. We're actually teaming up with the Safe Highway Patrol to work that for a few hours. And that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Are we doing a drug take back today or this year?
We'll with the move and everything, it's just been hectic. We'll do it. They do one in the fall, usually around September, and we'll participate in that one.
But you can turn in, I think,
Anytime.
anytime, right?
That is correct,
Because I
yes.
did that the other
We
day.
actually have a permanent drug box inside the police department, so all you have to do is come in, we'll take them.
I just know that was popular and I knew we were right in the middle of the move and
Yes,
so
yeah.
we'll plan one for next spring then?
This fall.
Well, I know, but will we
Yes.
get back on our regular rotation?
Yeah, we'll go back to two of them a year, yes.
Very
It
good.
was last week. The nationwide one was last weekend, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything for Bruce? All right, any committee chair reports?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a finance committee meeting this evening. We set the budget schedule for the 2020 budget development, and Mr. King said that the administration will be able to follow that. Mr. Nicholson's not here. He's at the with my permission, he's at the He's at the Blue Jackets game, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing, so I hope he brings some luck. But anyway, we also discussed the police building budget. And it would appear it is, we're over budget about 2%, which is not really all that bad. Just, we had a long discussion about getting the process of the change orders and things like that. So I'm not going to rehash that, but with the absences on council this evening, I don't want to bring that up. There's an ordinance on, but we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it later. But my concern wasn't necessarily with the overage, although that was disappointing, considering it's a small percentage. It's not going to be a huge impact. There is some money left in the bond fund to pay for it, and then the other portion that's going to come out of the police operating budget. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that's not going to be a huge impact on the department. I mean, it's money you'd rather have it, but
We'll get by.
we're not going to be selling a cruiser or
No.
something like that.
We'll get by.
Some sort of craziness to pay for that. They'll be going to be okay. So that's the report. There'll be more discussion on this at later meetings, but I just want to highlight that for the rest of the council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other committee chair reports? I know yours was canceled. and
Well,
Yeah,
Mel
street.
left, I'll go ahead,
do street.
just in her, place, give really brief, she took much more detailed notes than I did. But I guess the three things I do wanna mention is that the street committee has, the street committee has, recommended approval of resolution 2019-035, which is executing a contract for the safe travel plan. 036, which is entering into contract for the ramp program, and then 037, which is entering into a contract for Oak Meadow Drive.
Okay. Any other committee chair reports?
I forgot something.
Okay.
Special council meeting, September 30th, 6 p.m. That will be to discuss the budget. So September 30th, 6 p.m. to exclusively agenda to discuss the 2020 budget. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to quickly, you're right, my meeting, my council meeting for utilities didn't have a quorum tonight. I wanted to point out to council, I believe 4340, ordinance 4340, is that correct, Mr. King, is the utility?
Yes, it is. Ordinance 2019-4340.
It's some very basic changes to the street utilities and public services code. Chris Sharrock came to the utility committee and basically said some reconnection fees were lagging, and so he wanted to up a reconnection fee to $35. Also, we had some instances in the city where people were stealing water or turning on water at the street, and the city had really no teeth to stop that. So he suggested and indeed implemented a heftier fine for people that are stealing water by turning on water at the street. And then at the suggestion of the utility committee, he added some language to kind of clean up multiple tenants water moving to multiple tenant structures. And this is only the first reading, so there will be two more. Anybody can ask some more questions, but I would ask council to review that. And then also, Chris Sharrock sent out our rate discussion letter. Remind council that that's coming up as well. Please, everybody take a look at it, familiarize yourself with it, be ready to discuss it. And that's all I have.
Okay. Anything for Tim? All right. Unfinished business. Ordinance 2019-4336 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Powell,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Kathy, when you're ready. Second reading.
Ordinance 2019-4336. This is the second reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019.
Discussion?
King, I have a question on 4336. This gets a little confusing. So 4336 was on last time,
Yes.
correct? And that's the one that had the
IT,
IT.
correct.
The amendment is to take out the IT.
The amendment is take out the IT, but also to amend the cost for the safe travels plan, the ramp in Oak Meadow. But the costs for those do not increase, we're just shifting money from savings on those projects when we
Okay.
got the bid. So it's a net zero increase for those 3 projects, but we do have to reconcile the amounts.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we amend ordinance 2019-4336 by substitution.
Got a motion to amend?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll on the motion to amend.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, that has been amended. Any more discussion on the ordinance itself? All right, ordinance
Mr.
2000.
Mayor?
Yes.
We're on the record sheet, reflect on the yes.
Okay, for this next ordinance, Mr. Barstow is excusing himself. 2019-4337 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Powell,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lee.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
will we have a quorum without Todd?
It's only a second reading.
So can you take any,
Yeah, Brian, with only 3 not here at this point, can there be any action done on a second reading right now? Not to approve, or can we just do anything with this?
I think you're just having a second reading now. I think you can still have that. You have the form of counsel. He's now recused himself from the deliberations and the discussion, but you're not gonna do more than that anyway, so I don't see why you can't.
can we have discussion as well?
Sure.
Okay, who seconded the motion?
I did.
Mr. Lee. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
ordinance 2019-4337, this is the second reading, an ordinance requesting an amendment/change to the zoning classification of the property located at 0 Watkins Road Southwest, parcel number 064-068-442-00.047, totaling 6.88 plus or minus acres in the city of Pataskala from multifamily residential RM zoning classification to the medium-low density residential R87 zoning classification.
Discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I wanna, previous comments, from the podium notwithstanding, I continue to struggle with this ordinance. I look out there and I know that there are people that are here that feel quite strongly about it. I want something that I think that the citizens that have been quite vocal about it need to know is this zoning would not take place until essentially October or sometime deep in the fall. And there is, this piece of property is currently at planning and zoning to undergo, if they approve it, essentially, work could start on it even though we have not rezoned it yet. And so that's one thing I kind of found that out. I hope I'm right in that because this is extremely odd and rare for me, this type of thing. I certainly have waffled back and forth with the concerns that the schools enumerated, and I've gone back and forth, just because I personally have a problem zoning somebody's property out from underneath them, if that's the right term. Spot zoning was used earlier. I don't think the zoning code is written in stone by God. If there's somebody wants to put a lead smelter next to a child daycare, I think that we ought to be able to say, I understand that, but that's not gonna fly. But I don't know in my heart that that's quite what we've got here, and I don't know that I continue to evolve on it. I think ultimately the request that was made at the podium would come after the third reading. And I'll hold my final comments and everything till then. I've looked, and that doesn't mean I've just, looked away from it. I've tried to figure out the original property owners told the city that they wanted to annex in, and this is what they were gonna do. I'm gonna do this and this. and then they didn't do it. And, you know, does that give the city a leg to stand on? And I've been told no. I continue to evolve on it, but it does give me problems to zone people's property, not the least of which was pointed out last time, wants to prevent me from suddenly telling you you can't have a shed, even though you've got a shed on your property, or something like that. So it's not all straight zoning, and I struggle with it all the time, but I'm still digging into it as deep as I can, and obviously our determination will come after the third reading. So, just so council and the citizens, I don't think the citizens realize, they thought if this goes through a rezoning and it's rezoned, and that's not the case, as I understand. Does that sound right to you, Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I'm pretty much gonna echo everything that Mr. Higgins said. This ordinance, if we pass it, it's just council agreeing to submit an application for rezoning. We're the applicant, just as if anybody else lived in the city, wanted to rezone a piece of property, they would submit an application for rezoning. That's what this is. We are not, with this ordinance, not rezoning anything. This could go to planning and zoning. They could, deny it or approve it. It still has to come back here through the regular zoning process. Also, as far as spot zoning is concerned, I feel like if we have a piece of property where a business comes in and there's a property zoned residential and they want to change it to zone it commercial for their business, and they go through the zoning process and we approve it, that would technically be a spot zoning, would that not? So that's something that we do all the time. And then also, this is not a single council person's action. This is full council. We're considering, we are the ones submitting the application. It's not one single council person. So I want that to be understood as well. That's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Hick and I struggle with this as well. I don't like the spot zone. I don't like the concept of it. It really goes kind of against my philosophy on government. But I've looked at this plan and just wish there was something that we could do to compromise. I don't know what the original plan was back when it was annexed. It sounds like we don't have a leg to stand on with that. It was zoned, it was annexed in to do one thing, and now there's another thing, and I don't believe that, the person that's wanting to purchase this property is even here tonight. I believe Ms. Kling is here to represent him, but, or them. But my concerns with it are, there's safety issues. It's not a good plan. I don't wanna, I hate for the property owner not to sell their property or get cheap. It's just not a good plan. And I'll back that up by saying, the schools have said, they're not gonna put a school bus back there. All these kids are gonna have to walk all the way out to Watkins Road. There's already traffic issues there. I see that as a safety issue. I know the fire department's weighed in on it, but that's what I do for a living. And when I look at this, I go, we do pre-plans at the firehouse all the time. There's a new building built, we go look at it, we walk in it, we walk around it, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna attack this? How are we gonna preserve life and property? I look at this and I go, just as a fireman, and go, there's 3 buildings here, I can get 1 truck to. I can't do anything for these people with 1 truck on a multi-family building. So, I heard gentlemen talk about doing the right thing and what's rational. To me, this plan isn't. And as much as I hate the spot zoning, I just wish there was something that we could do where we could come up with some type of a compromise, because I just don't see this as good for the city of Pataskala at all. So hopefully we can talk about it and come up with something. Doesn't seem like that's an option at this time, but I don't want to do this at all, but I see some real safety concerns here, and I'm just not comfortable with the plan. So that's all I have for tonight.
Any other discussion? Okay, ordinance 2019-4338 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Powell,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2019-4338, this is the second reading, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2014-4202, the mayor's court cost fee schedule of the city of Pataskala.
Discussion?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm gonna channel my inner Mike Fox again. I can only do that one time during a meeting. I did it one time last meeting. My second objection to the fee schedule is that it appears that, and this is something I really agree with Mr. Fox on when he was on council, a fee to have a fee. And that's what some of this is. It's just a fee just to have a fee. There's no nexus, at least there wasn't any demonstrated by Mr. Kelsey's presentation. Maybe I didn't ask him, between, for example, the diversion fee and why we have to have a diversion fee. $200 that's gonna go where? Chief Justice O'Connor has reminded all the courts in Ohio, including mayor's courts, that they're not to use citizens as ATMs to finance their operations. And that's how, unless someone convinces me otherwise, that's how I see, especially the diversion program fee. Thank you.
Would you like to have Mr. Kelsey at our third reading, sir?
Well, he's got my email address, got my phone number, he can call me or email me, but if he wants to come, it's fine. I mean, but if he wants to, I'm the only one I think who objects to this, if he wants to. Although Mr. Powell enjoyed our interplay last time, so maybe we should have him back.
I think we'll have him here for the third reading, just for any questions that
We-
might pop up.
Trust me, we struggle to entertain at these meetings, so that might not be a bad idea. Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Chair.
Would you make a note of that, Mr. King, please?
Already done.
Thank you. All right, new business, ordinance 2019-4335 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Powell. Kathy, when you're ready, first reading.
Ordinance 2019-4335, this is the first reading, an amendment to chapter 1315 of the codified ordinances of the city of Pataskala, and to repeal all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith.
Any discussion? Okay, ordinance 2019-4339 for a first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2019-4339, this is the first reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can't dispense with the readings if we don't have 5 people. We have to have an absolute. It's one of those, it's one of those parts of our rules that require 5, not just a supermajority of who's here. Mr. Zetz?
Yes, but
It's actually, look at my high math I did at the top of my agenda. 2/3 of 7 is 5.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Can't have an emergency
Yeah.
today.
Sorry.
We do high math.
And sorry,
can be separate, we talked about separating the, go ahead, Mr. Hicken.
well, I guess my question was, my understanding from the finance committee meeting was that we were not gonna dispense with the readings anyway. That we're, first of all, we're short council people.
Right.
And I think that everybody on council deserves a chance to ask questions about it and to dispense with it without 3 people here. I mean, or even that 2, I don't know.
Well, what I'm thinking about doing is, Mr. Mayor, is on 4339, sorry, I'm not as prepared. So instead of dispensing, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we amend ordinance 2019-4339 to delete section 2. Mr. King, is that
That is correct.
what we thought?
Yeah, that would leave a single supplemental appropriation for the IT cost. Unfortunately, with not having 5, we cannot dispense of, but that does set up for the next item. I would ask if there's any, I don't think we can do it. I'm gonna ask if there's any desire to add what we're removing to ordinance 2019-4336, which would be considered a third reading, or just remove it and come back with a separate supplemental for it. I don't think we can go back and amend it now that it's been read though, right? Correct?
Correct.
I don't think so, and I apologize if I didn't catch that,
Oh,
fine
that's
point
okay.
on
But I do,
procedure.
I do think it makes sense to amend it, to remove it, and that way it is right for the next council meeting. Hopefully we have more than 5 people and can, suspend the readings at that time.
Okay, so my motion is to, on ordinance 2019-4339, is to amend it by deleting section 2 as proposed.
Got a motion to delete,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll on the motion to delete.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, so that sets that up for next time as a single ordinance that can be in its third reading?
It would still be
Second?
second reading, but we'll still request dispensing on third reading.
Okay.
Um,
We'll have more
Yes,
people to do that.
and that's mainly because I think that it's, even if we had Mrs. Carter here, when we would've had 5 people, I have to say I would've been opposed to, emergency on section 2, because I believe that discussion should be a full council discussion, and we had 2 people missing already. And I know that, out of deference to Mr. Walther, who has expressed over the life of the police building project an interest in its budget, out of deference to him, I think we should hold off until he can be here to ask questions and engage in a discussion. So that's the reason. It's a little complicated. That's the reason. I hope that, does it make sense?
It does.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay.
Ordinance 2019-43440 for a first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Kathy, when you're ready.
ordinance 2019-4340. This is the first reading, an ordinance amending section 925.01, Rule 8, Rule 9, Rule 11, and Rule 15 of the codified ordinances of the city of Pataskala as shown in Exhibit A.
Discussion? Okay, on to resolutions. Resolution 2019-030, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute contract with CS Electric to upgrade the Old Town Hall electric system.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-032, resolution approving a then and now certification by the city finance director pursuant to RC 5705.41D2 for the payment of operating expenditures.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move that we table
Yes.
resolution 2019-032.
Got a motion to table, seconded by Mr. Hicken. Roll, please.
A discussion of that, the reasoning is resolution 2019-032 relates back to section 2 of ordinance 2019-4339. They are interconnected. Thank you.
ready for roll?
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Resolution is tabled. Resolution 2019-034, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute an agreement with Mankind LLC to complete remodeling work at the Old Town Hall.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-035, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to accept the bid of and execute a contract with MP Dory Company for construction services for the Pataskala Safe Travel Plan Project Phases 1 and 2.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-036, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to accept the bid of and enter into a contract with the Shelley Company for construction services for the 2019 RAMP program.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Have they started yet, Alan?
No.
Just now.
Resolution 2019-037, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to accept the bid of and enter into a contract with the Rock River Construction Company for construction services for the Oak Meadow Drive Improvements Project.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second,
seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion?
yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I'm glad that Oak Meadow's going to get what it's deserved for a long time. It's going to get taken care of. I was disappointed that the bids came back so high, and as a result, it was bid out with the option for the concrete sidewalks. The bids for the concrete sidewalks came back too high, and I was not able to include that and support that being included in this project. I know the residents wanted that, and I wanted that too. I was praying and hoping and crossing my fingers that it would come back low enough that we could include it, but it just didn't. With that being said, hopefully, I think the project's gonna go well. Alan's already said that he's gonna have an inspector dedicated to it to make sure that everything goes off without a hitch. So I look forward to this project moving forward.
Yeah, the quality of the rest of the project, unfortunately, we couldn't do that, but, as we got into this, it just kept going, and to do it right, which we need to do it right, ended up costing more money, but it's gonna be done and done right. Did you have some words?
Well, I don't think anybody said that the extra amount was
34,000.
34,000. The other bid that we turned down, what was their extra amount for a sidewalk?
For the alternate was 62,000.
And this is, the bid itself is within 10% of,
The base bid was roughly 7% over the engineer's estimate.
So it is awardable per the ORC.
10% is the threshold.
Correct, on the base bid.
But not with their sidewalk price.
The alternate is separate. If the base bid is within 10%, it's awardable. Alternates are at our discretion to
Okay.
award after that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Kathy?
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-038, a resolution to accept and confirm infrastructure improvements for the Broadmoor Commons Phase 1 development for public maintenance and operation by the city of Pataskala.
So moved.
Moved by Mr.
Second.
Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-039, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator or his designee to apply for a 2019 Ohio Department of Natural Resources Nature Works grant.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Barstow and seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? So your designee would be Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? And roll call.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Motions, any motions?
Citizens' comments.
Yep. Additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak? And as Mr. Garavito makes his way up here, as you know, I asked a young lady in town to help me with the PR work. Katie is here. She couldn't make it at 7 for normal comments, but Katie is bringing us an update for the events for May, the city stuff, so I'll have her speak during the 3 minutes tonight, so, and she has a handout on the May events for the city. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Steve. Yep, name and address, please, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
You got it. Steve Garavito, I'm one of the operating partners at the Bullet Ranch. Our address is 12425 Broad Street Southwest, Pataskala, Ohio. In regards to We are always open for anybody that wants to come in and talk.
You need to address
Sorry,
us.
I know.
Yeah.
Our door is always open. We're a very family-friendly place. You know, we want to do anything we can to keep our neighbors happy. Our neighbors are important to us. But in regards to those complaints, we did some testing on our own. We used a decibel meter. We went out to Charles Drive, which is almost exactly a half a mile from our property. The decibel meter, when there were shotgun rounds going off out back, the needle did not even budge. It stayed right at 60 decibel. As an airplane banked over towards the flight path, it shot right up to 120 decibel. So there's an awful lot of other noises. AEP, you could hear them dropping, you know, crates and things like that that they do over their lap, which actually makes more noise and in many cases sounds like gunshots. Not to mention, people shoot all over the community within discharge zones. So there could be shots going off, you know, half a mile down the road from us that may sound as if they are us. So I request anybody to please come in and spend some time. You know, we're open about 70 hours a week, and on a busy week, maybe 5% of that time, 3 hours, give or take, is people out on the back trap shooting range. It was very limited. We did at times test fire on weapons that we were repairing and stuff. We have ceased and desist that. We will no longer do that, just because we don't want to make any extra ruckus that we need to. But in all reality, we're really not we're not generating a lot of noise for a lot of time, you know. And we're always open. You know, I mean, we always are open for anybody to come in with questions. You know, we're glad to have you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak?
Robert Rath, 310 Oak Meadow Drive. Read what you passed here, and I'm sorry, I don't agree with any of it. You folks can find $34,000, $100,000 for overruns of other projects. But for this project, and a street that's heavily traveled, I don't understand why $34,000 is a problem. I really don't. I've come to this council with a list of the people that live on that street, all requesting, we don't want asphalt in front of our place, we want sidewalks. You folks are treating us like second-class citizens. Let me clarify a couple things. I read some of the writings in here. It's Oak Haven subdivision, okay? It's Oak Meadow Drive. The street sign says Oak Meadow. Let's get it right, okay? To me, I just don't understand where $34,000 is a big deal. I've asked you and suggested you, why don't you do like other cities? Go to the residents and say, we're gonna make this improvement, we're gonna assess your property for these improvements. Because what you're gonna create now, I'm gonna tell you, and I would invite any of you to come and sit on my front porch and watch the traffic now, the way it is with all the potholes, the speed there, and it's nowhere near 35 mile an hour, it's beyond that. We're gonna put a nice racetrack there on a street that's too narrow as it is to handle all the park traffic, and just make it worse. So, if you want my 2 cents worth, forget about the asphalt, just fix the street, the drainage, and leave it be, and we'll see what kind of problems we get created, because I just don't feel it's right. $34,000. I'm sitting back here thinking to myself, you know, I could write a check for that. But that's ridiculous. This town ought to take care of us and quit treating us like second-class citizens. And then your father lives on Pat Haven. Pat Haven's as bad as Oak Meadow Drive right now. I watched the city come through and patch potholes earlier this week. My son was out in his wheelchair today. He says, hey Dad, let him know there's 50 potholes on Oak Meadow Drive right now, and they patched 2 earlier in the week. I don't know what their procedure is, but it sure doesn't make any sense. So all I can say is I'm very, very disappointed. I thought there was a sidewalk fund where other businesses were where they have put or are required to put sidewalks in, and they don't make any sense. Go out in front of AutoZone. Some of these other places, you have sidewalks to nowhere. Yet we're in a subdivision,
and you ran concrete sidewalks from Chase Bank up to the hardware store, and it stopped there, but yet you want to give us asphalt from that point to the new subdivision. I'm sorry. I just find that very disappointing.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak?
My name is Fred Perry. I live at 244 Oak Meadow Drive, Pataskala, Ohio. This is a mess. If you're not gonna do the sidewalk, go put blacktop. Just forget the sidewalk right now. Fix the damn street so we could get up and down the street. And you're talking about a street up there. The other day, you had something on Facebook about the stop signs. I live by one of the stop signs. Nobody stops. They run up and down the street like it's a speedway. Then they holler about fixing their cars for the want to fix their cars because they tore the car up on the potholes. Well, I know about the potholes. I'm smart enough to drive slow enough to come up the street, wait for somebody else, and I get in the center and come up so I can don't tear the car up. But this is ridiculous. It is really ridiculous. Like Mr. Rath said, you guys treat us like second-class citizens up there. We've been here a long while. And I think something should be done otherwise than a blacktop sidewalk or whatever it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I've got some questions
You have some questions?
about this.
All
I
right.
think Mr. Lee does too.
Go ahead, Mr. Barstow.
So, Mr. King and Mr. Haynes, so it costs us $34,000 to do the sidewalks. Can we still do that? Can we tell this contractor we want, I'm just asking hypothetically, we want concrete sidewalks, not asphalt. Can we do that?
Yes.
Can we come up with, is there somewhere that we can come up with $34,000 to do it?
We could take a good hard look right now. I wouldn't tell you where that is.
I'm that's sort of, it's not hypothetical, quasi-hypothetical. I'm not
Yeah.
asking you to immediately
Say where it's gonna come from.
where it's gonna come from, but is that theoretically possible?
I would say so.
Okay. Can we get with, can we talk to Mr. Nicholson when he gets back from the hockey game, if he survives it and doesn't cheer himself to
We
death?
can take a look at the budget and follow up to council.
Can we, Mr. Haynes, can we, not from the financial aspect of it, but from working with the contractor, can we put concrete sidewalks in?
Yes, it's an alternate. We can
No,
choose to approve.
okay. So let's look at doing it. 34,000, the points are well taken. $34,000, I think is something that, I think personally, something we could find it somewhere.
Follow up with council tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. Look forward to it. Thank you. I think Mr. Lee had a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Alan, that wouldn't, would sidewalks be put in last anyway? It wouldn't stop any engineering or planning or building or,
No, it shouldn't hold us up.
okay, that would be,
Okay, can you just check with the contractor and say, hey, wait a minute?
Well, so we just passed a resolution now for the base bid.
Right.
We can hold off if we want to wait to see if we want to pass a second resolution or amend that resolution on how that works exactly.
Right.
To include the alternate, we can just hold off.
Well, we'll worry about the mechanics of it. I don't want this to be stopped. I mean, my question would be, Mr. King, we have Mr. Haynes, contact the contractor and say, hey, can you do this without putting the asphalt walkway in and just work on getting the street started and.
Yeah,
There's no need, that's our decision.
Okay, I don't know how this stuff works. I mean.
Yeah, they bid it both ways, so.
Okay.
they're
if we
capable.
choose the alternate, then we can go with it.
I'd like to hear about that sooner rather than later.
Yep.
I think the residents' points are well taken. I'm glad they came. Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Barstow. I think the comments are very well taken, and I would like to look into that sooner rather than later to see if we can come up with that money somewhere. I know that there's I don't know how much is in it, but Mr. Rath referenced it. There's the fee in lieu of fund that when businesses, come in, they don't need the sidewalks right away. They can put the money in there for later. I don't know what that fund looks like, so maybe that's an option, even if it can cover part of it. But I look at it like the cruiser shelter. We passed the police station, but the cruiser shelter was an alternate when we came back to that later. For $34,000, if the residents really want it that bad, and it's that, resounding, I think that we should take a hard look at it.
My other question is, in terms of financing, could we do it with a combination of the sidewalk in lieu of fund and an assessment?
Yes, we could.
Then, fine. I think the residents, it sounds like they wanna put their money where their mouth is, and that's great too. If they wanna pitch in, that's fine too. We can, I don't want them to bear the whole cost, but if we need something, because I'd like to see the city pay for it, first and foremost. Make every effort to pay for it. If we are somewhat short, then we could look at that, but I'd like that to be sort of a last resort. But I'm just asking that question.
Yeah, there can be a combination of funding sources used.
I prefer that the city pay for it. They find the money first. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Lee.
Scott, when did our in lieu of sidewalk program start? Just about a year or so ago, a year and a half?
2 to 3 years, I'd say approximately.
So there's a little money in there?
So, note that we're already using $65,000 from the fee in lieu of for this project.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can do.
Does anybody know how much is in that account?
I'd say after the 65, maybe 15 to 20.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah.
So we used 65 for this particular project in the first place?
Correct.
Okay, good. That's good to know. If that had been sitting there and we didn't use it, okay, good. All right.
Well, we've got to start, so let's keep moving towards that.
Mr. Hicken?
I will point out that there was discussion about assessment, and there are some people on that road that are absolutely for it. And I've had multiple discussions with Mr. Rath. He's an acquaintance of mine and a good one. I consider him to be a friend. However, to look at, and I'm going to be trust me, I'm going to ultimately be in favor if we can find a way to get there. But at the end, it's $31,000. This project started off at $450,000 and then went to $600,000 and then went to $800,000. Now, that's because we had to improve the drainage. It's at the very end. I just want the people out there to not hear us and think it's automatic. I think everybody up here was clear that we want to see the finances, and so do I. And if that happens, that's fine. But if the people are going to agree to assessments, and if we can find the money, then
Yeah, anybody hearing this for the first time would have said, yeah, you're right. You can't find another 34,000, but remember where this started at. 200 and 300 and 400 and 600 and 800, so.
And some council members that aren't here right now have tried to tighten that cost down or and there's a give and take. I just don't want it to look like a false promise, because I think the people there have before thought something was gonna happen and it switched. And I wanna be perfectly clear about that.
Well, the cost overruns are not in any way, shape, or form the fault of any resident.
They are not.
They're not.
No.
They're not the fault of the city. It's just that's just.
To do it right.
It's just, well, in order to do it, these things, it was like peeling back an onion every time, there was some new issue. So we have those issues solved. I'm more than willing to spend the money because the street needs it. Let's get the sidewalks in.
Well, and again, to do it right, I mean, you mentioned social media, people, hey, put some blacktop on it. This didn't need just blacktop. This needed engineering and sidewalks and drainage taken to the river. I mean, it's just ballooned, so it's gonna be done and done right. Okay, any other discussion? All right, anybody else wish to speak? Katie?
Hi, okay, nothing about sidewalks. I've been working with Fairmont Compton on different events around town that we're trying to get the word out and just get more attendance. There's a lot going on this month. There's the police grand opening. Mr. Hopper's been working on a ton of things. Literally half the things on my schedule for the month of May are events he's putting on. So we just wanted to pass out the flyers and let you all know what's going on and hope to see you guys all there. Can I pass them out?
Yes, please. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, what do you got for me?
Mr. Mayor, I move we go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3 for a conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Invited into this executive session are B.J. King, City Administrator, and Brian Zetz, Law Director.
I got a motion to go into executive session. Seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? We're still in session, folks. Any discussion on the roll to go into executive session? Go ahead, Kathy.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Okay, we're going upstairs, executive session at 8:20. Thank you, Katie. Wednesday morning, right, Katie? 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Did I call you? Yeah, about 4 hours ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
Is that yours? Somebody from planning and zoning.
Need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Higgins. Discussion and roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Okay, out of executive session at 9:22. Tommy, you got anything tonight?
I do not.
Mr. Zetz, you got anything?
Nope.
Mr. BJ, you got anything?
I do not, Mayor.
Mr. Barstow?
Nothing.
Mr. Powell?
Nope.
Mr. Higgins?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Discussion and roll.
Lee,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hicken.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
So, BJ, I think he signed up there in Bexley the other day at the McDonald's.
See y'all. Good jackets.
Got it.
See you.